Hi, my name is Anna Panaligan, and this is the art that inspires me. But first off, I'm gonna start off with a quote by Haruki Murakami. Maybe working on the little things as dutifully and honestly as we can is how we stay sane when the world is falling apart, which is, I think, very relevant to what's going on. I think that creativity is really a great form of escape and therapy to kind of relieve our minds from worries.
This is Lamel Dupay, Homesickness in French by well-renowned surrealist French painter René Magritte. This piece is in watercolor and gouache on paper. It was made in 1948. I was very fortunate enough to see it in person at SF MoMA a couple years ago at an exhibition called René Magritte, the fifth season. At that time, I was in a class with Mark Pandone, and we were tasked to look at a work that kind of resonated with us. Look at it for 20 minutes and write a paper about it. And this was the work that I chose because when I immediately saw it, I was brought to tears. And I figured it was the muted colors, the pastel colors, kind of giving this sad, melancholy vibe. And then there's this figure to the right, kind of resting and relaxed, leaning a bit, and kind of maybe taking in the view. And then there's this line kind of protecting him, which I haven't really figured out why. Then I did further research, and there's an earlier version of this painting in oil, maybe painted in 38 or 39. And Magritte said that he was really feeling homesickness when he painted it because he had to leave France because of the German occupation. And I resonated with that even more because I immigrated when I was very young. I was 10 from the Philippines, not at my own will. So I was kind of rebellious and was sad and depressed in those years. And that's the kind of thing I want to resonate in my work, which is humanness, being true to myself, and just trying to reflect the times. The next couple pieces are by Paula Rego, who is a Portuguese-born artist, particularly known for her paintings and prints based on storybooks. This is Dog Woman, made in 1994, and this is inspired by a story of a friend of Rego's, and also referencing a couple of drawings from Degas. And in this series, she said that in these pictures, every woman's a dog woman, now downtrodden, but powerful. To be bestial is good. It's physical. Eating, snarling, all activities to do with sensation are positive. To picture a woman as a dog is utterly believable. Though this is a very animalistic figure, I still think it shows humanness but in just a very extreme way, because the figure is just unhinged and in rage, and some of us truly become that at times. And I think that it's still very empowering that she controls her own narrative and that she's not tied down. So this is Paola Rego's Untitled Number 1 from 1998. It was part of her abortion series. With the series, she was trying to reveal aspects of abortions that are rarely talked about, which are the effects of the procedure and also trying to convince people that abortion is a woman's right. And she made it less sickening or cut the gore out to make it agreeable for people. Like, she put pretty colors. Again, this is the kind of thing that I want to show in my work, which is reflecting the times, making aware of these kinds of social issues. This is Ron Kajiwara by Alice Neel, made in 1971. Kajiwara was a graphic designer and later became Vogue magazine's design director and also designed sets for theater spectacles in New York. I think this portrait represents self-presentation, expression. He's wearing this long black coat, knee-high boots, long hair that alludes to what he does, and he looks effortless. And I think that it accentuates his thinness. And there's something about his hands and the movement of it. He seems like he's in mid-sentence, his mouth agape, and his hands moving about when you're talking. I also just wanted to mention Alice Neel's body of work, which is really diverse. She showed a lot of people of color, and I think illustrated like social economic disparities in her neighborhood in Spanish Harlem. And also she painted very prominent people like Faith Ringgold and Andy Warhol in his most vulnerable. I think she just does a great job with showing humanness, awkwardness, like people in pause, as if she was just talking to them. And you know, some of these portraits are unfinished because maybe the conversation was over, and I just like the spontaneity of that. This is Annabelle Sleeping by Lucian Freud from 87 to 1988 on oil on canvas. Lucian Freud, I think, captures humanists very differently. He does have portraits of people where they seem to be caught in the moment, but sometimes he does stage or art directs a certain scene that he might want to do. For example, this of Annabelle sleeping, the bed is in the middle of a room and it's not going at the same angle as the floor is, so I think it's in the middle of the room, which I think is very odd. But I think a lot of like model artist relationship kind of do that anyway, so it's not, I don't think it's that odd. But so yeah, he's maybe staged Annabelle to curl up on this bed, to maybe wear this dress that's quite complementary to the oranges on her feet. I really like expressionism. Like, it's almost hyper realistic, but the way that he paints is very painterly. You know, you can see the strokes. It makes you want to eat the painting, and that's what I also like to do in my paintings. Like, I want to make it very, very rich and very textured. Like, her feet almost look like ridges on the Grand Canyon, and the colors of it also is quite similar to the Grand Canyons, maybe during golden hour. It's quite amazing. And he does the same thing. I mean, he started doing that in his later works. But yeah, I think it's quite amazing. And I also like that he does what he wants, and he just paints people in such odd poses, and well, not that odd. They always look comfortable, but and he compositions them in odd ways. Sometimes his paintings go off from the canvas and he adds another canvas, and I really, really like that idea as well. And he cuts off people too. And then you start to imagine, or you can imagine beyond the canvas. This is Interior with Hand Mirror, a self-portrait by Lucian Freud from 1967. I think that this painting is also a portrait of his window. I've also tried this kind of self-portrait where I look at myself maybe 2 or 3 feet away from the mirror, and since I have bad eyesight, I really had to squint, and I think that may be why his eyes are not quite visible. I don't know if he had bad eyesight like me, but it looks kind of creepy. I chose this self-portrait among a lot of self-portraits that he did. I know he's been doing it ever since the beginning of his career, and I think that really captured his aging really quite well. Like, I know he did a self-portrait of himself naked maybe in his 70s, with his palette knife and his palette of paints, and I think that's just quite a rebellious thing to do. And I chose this mirror reflection one because I think it's very intimate and just kind of in that moment. And this is Lay on a Green Sofa by Lucian Freud from 1993 on oil on canvas. Freud has lots of portraits of the naked body, doing odd compositions and like his mother juxtapositioned against this naked lady, and or someone naked juxtapositioned against this lady reading a book. But I like this one in particular because of it's very geometrical. He's created shapes on the body parts like this. His arms is very triangular, and the legs are very rectangle, like squarish, and it's kind of like Lego stacking against each other. It's very interesting too, and how this perspective of it, and it looks like it's bird's eye view at an angle, and so you kind of see the body in this way, like you don't really see it at all because no one's that tall. But also the couch is cut off, but you can still imagine it going off. The colors are very limited, but there's tons and tons of colors in the flesh. Like, you see like purples on the legs and the gray shadows, and like the olive greenish shadows on the arms, and the reds on the ears, like the pinks. And yeah, he really knows how to mess with colors. Like, he knows that red obviously goes with the greenish kind of olive couch and things like that. Yeah, and I think Freud's one of the people that I learned how to observe, to really look at the people's colors on their skin. Though I think he only ever
painted white people, I still can get that sense that he's really looking beyond what he's seeing. This is Two Lovers, and then we got Bagels by Oscar Yihu, made in 2019, oil on canvas, 60 inches by 44 inches. I found out Oscar Yihu's work through social media. I think he still goes to school. I think he might be in Colombia. And he's, I think, British as well. This is a painting of him, a portrait of him and his partner. And what I like about this painting is that it completely defines my generation. And I think my age, because of the iPhone and how completely vivid the colors are, the fashion, the Nike shoes. What I also like about it is the immediacy of the painting. Like, it looks unfinished, but you still get the sense that there's still, like, it's still finished because there's suggestions of it. And I like that he leaves the canvas alone as well. Like, he uses the white of the canvas. Yeah, it's completely convoluted. At least the background, and I love that. It's just so much to see. And it almost looks like colored pencil. Like, it was such a quick gesture. I feel that this painting only pertains to them, and I like that. It's very intimate. Like, there's these writings that go all the way around them, kind of framing them, and all these drawings that only maybe them could ever pinpoint, but it's such a feast for the eyes. And I love their expressions. They look so nonchalant and mundane and very unbothered. Again, this work represents my generation and the fact that we are bound by technology, but we still know how to do analog things and learn to really appreciate that. This also represents me because I'm a person of color, and this couple is two persons of color, and I just like seeing a diverse body of work like that represents the people that I see every day. And I feel like museums need to really step up with showing their permanent work, because they're mostly very Eurocentric. And I know that they're working on it now because of the exposure of institutional racism, but they should have done it like a long time ago. And it's just maddening that we are just now having a conversation about it. This is Still Life with Orange Peel by Richard Diebenkorn from 1955 on oil on canvas. So this was on display at SF MoMA for Wayne Thiebaud's show about his process and works that inspire him from the SF MoMA collection. And I had no idea that this was going to be part of the show. And when I saw it, I kind of geeked out. I think that
Thiebaud is really a great master of color. Like, he really knows how to play with vivid colors and muted colors and playing with that. And he does a good job of it in this very representational image with the muted backgrounds to help the vividness of the orange and the teal tablecloth to come out. I also like the way that he paints representational things. It's very luscious and very full. It's filled with texture. And one of the things that I want to show in my work is color. I want more vibrancy in my work. I feel like I don't use enough real colors. I feel like I always mix a lot of colors together and it kind of gets all muted and very limited. And there's nothing wrong with having a limited palette of color, but I don't know, I just want to be more brave about that.
This is Lady at the Tea Table by Mary Cassatt. It's on oil on canvas, dated at 1883 to 1885. So this is a painting of Mary Cassatt's mother's first cousin. She painted this as a thank you to her aunt's daughter for gifting the tea set, the porcelain tea set. And apparently the daughter did not like how her mother was portrayed. She thought that she had a bigger nose than usual. But anyway, I love that Mary Cassatt really shows age in her portraits. She paints like the woman as honest as possible. Mary Cassatt just ended up having to hide this in the closet for about 30 years or so until someone persuaded her to donate it to the Met. And I think that's very unfortunate because it's such a beautiful painting. I think that this is also a very good example of a limited palette. There's maybe like 5 prominent colors that I see, which is the blue, the whites, the dark dress, and the gold trimmings in her flesh tone. It makes it very easy and relaxing to look at. It also makes it harmonious and very cohesive. With a limited palette, the colors of the tea set echoes in the aunt's eyes, and the gold trimmings echoes on her jewelry. So the next couple of images are a series from Ana Mendieta called Silhouetta from 1973 to 1977. In this series, she'd fill the silhouette of her body with materials including rocks, things, flowers, and blood, and combining like a concern for primal rituals and a modern feminist sensibility. I think that it shows immediacy of life and the entirety of nature. I think that nature will always be there. The idea that nature will always be there, but the silhouette will go in time. I really like that she's completely aware of her surroundings and the things, her resources are sustainable and things that are completely bound to earth. and I really commend her for doing that because it's such a hard thing to do, and she does it in such an innovative way. And for me, the least I could do is maybe paint oil, but I just do not have the studio to do that. Like, if I painted oil, I wouldn't be able to sleep in my room. Or completely go paperless and just work online, but I just can't do that either. So I will continue to just work on that, and hopefully I get a place where I can paint in oil. I think as the human race has really made an impact on climate change, but this planet has stood through time, and it was once a volcanic wasteland, and it still hosted life. And I think that as the Earth, you know, kind of dwindles, I'm kind of hopeful that even I'm kind of hopeful for the new life that it will inhabit in the near future. But I still want us to keep fighting climate change. The title of this painting is called Love by Liu Xiaodong from 1995. It's on oil on canvas. This painting inspires me to paint more of the people who look like me, or because I always have to go out of my way to find artists like Xiaodong. And I want to see more paintings that I can relate to and be more recognized, and also be recognized as an artist in the industry, especially here in the United States. But anyway, Xiaodong's work reminds me a lot of Lucian Freud's later works. It's got thick paint, and it's also very textured. The composition where it cuts off parts of the body. This is really brave because it cuts off the torso, and it doesn't really want you to continue further, because it's just cutting at the joints, or it's just always going to be awkward looking. Anyway, I really also like the intimacy of this couple. They look comfortable and nonchalant, almost kind of playful. And again, that's going back to really being comfortable with each other. And yeah, it's kind of, and it doesn't have that feel of voyeur. Like, it doesn't look like it's a creep shot of this very intimate scene going on, because she's kind of smiling, and kind of her mouth agape is kind of smiling, and the guy looks very squished. And I think in Freud's work, the expressions on the faces are not really very expressive at all. They just look very blank most of the time. And yeah, and I like that this kind of has that this is more lively and more human, I guess. The title of this painting is called Love by Liu Xiaodong from 1995. It's on oil on canvas. I think this piece is quite interesting because museums are kind of like a sanctified white space, and this painting disrupts that because it's the museum is filled with Black people, And I think he's just trying to make space for them. And in the space, like, you really see them engaged in the work, paying attention. The kids are paying attention. It's really bustling and it's really lively. And he's really making a space for Black people in that museum, making them feel comfortable. Marshall is showing an underpainting, also known as grisaille, which is a kind of master painting process done by Leonardo da Vinci, Rembrandt, Vermeer, as not to waste expensive colors. So you paint them in these earth tone colors before you paint them with the actual colors that you want to. And he said that he's always been interested in unfinished paintings, and like in Leonardo's Saint Jerome in the Wilderness. With that said, there's always going to be two aspects that are inseparable, which is the painting, the skill of it, the doing it, and then the politics of representation and political identity. And I think that I aspire to be like Kerry James Marshall, because he's the epitome of that kind of work. This is Dos Fridas, or The Two Fridas by Frida Kahlo, made in 1939 on oil on canvas. So this painting was done after her divorce with Diego Rivera. It shows two of her personalities, one in traditional clothing and Tijuana costume, and the other next to an independent, modern dressed Frida with broken heart. And I guess in Frida's diary, she wrote about this painting and said that it originally came from a memory of an imaginary childhood friend. And I think it manifested to another version of her. And then later she admitted that she was just trying to express her desperation and loneliness with the divorce. The two Fridas are holding hands, which I think they're kind of holding each other to support each other because they're both brokenhearted. And the main artery is torn and is cut off by surgical pincers, held in the lap of the traditional Frida, and the blood is just dripping down in her white dress, and she is really in danger of bleeding to death. And I also think that the background, the sky, reflects like the turmoil of the feeling of this depression, desperation and loneliness. The expressions on the faces do not show the loneliness or the desperation, but it shows in the clothing, the cut artery, the broken hearts, the visible hearts, and the stormy, agitated skies in the back. I know that when she was called a surrealist, she wasn't having it because she demanded that she was a realist painter. And I think she really is, because she really knew how to express her feelings through her paintings so literally. Like, if she expressed that she was brokenhearted, she will draw a broken, torn up, cut up heart for you to see, to make you feel the weight that she's feeling. Alright, that just sums about the kind of work that inspires me. And thank you guys for listening and looking through the images. I'm looking forward to your thoughts and opinions about the work, and looking forward to seeing your guys's or the work that inspires you. Thank you.